In a remote corner of the Middle East, the scorching Arabian desert just out into the Persian Gulf, forming a tiny peninsula that is home to descendants of who were once fishermen and pearl divers. This is the nation of Qatar, just another quiet and unremarkable Gulf state, you might think.
Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, and Egypt imposed a blockade.
Give them your word that you're not supporting any Islamist groups. Are you going to meet these demands?
$15 billion into Turkey's financial markets.
The government and Taliban met today in Doha, Qatar for the start.
Here in London, Qatar owns even more property than the Queen of England.
But you would be wrong. This is Geographic Challenge series by Geodaring. It's time to understand Qatar. We have all heard of Qatar recently, largely due to their hosting of the World Cup, $220 billion of spending. But news coverage was superficial at best. To understand this nation, we must explore its core concerns and ambitions. If we look beyond what may first appear as the ambitious and excessive spending common to the all Gulf Sheikhdoms, but we find a single motivation that underpins everything Qatar does. Before discussing that, let's dive deeper into the country to lay the baseline for it. The Qatar Peninsula protrudes 160 kilometers into the Persian Gulf. So it's a very small country. From one side to another, it takes only 2.5 hours to drive. Despite the enormous wealth, it's challenging to be a country in this size. The country is located in the Middle East. Its only land border is with Saudi Arabia, which puts it at a great disadvantage whenever its neighbor decides to close the border. And guess what? It already happened in 2017. Saudis blocked the strip and even planned to dig a channel to cut them off completely. History has recorded little of Qatar beside the brief mention of its warring desert tribes. Qatar had been ruled by Bahrain and Saudi-based tribes between 1783 and 1868, before the Ottomans decided to take control of the peninsula in 1871. And with the First World War, the country switched to British rule, until it gained full independence in 1971. So it's a relatively young state that has only recently reached its 40s, younger than some of you out there watching this video. In the past, main industries of Qatar were fishing and pearls, but following the introduction of the Japanese culture pearl into the world market in the 1920s, the pearl industry crashed. But the country was saved by the discovery of oil in 1940. Things began to change dramatically for this tribal state. Oil and gas were the silver bullets that would end all problems a nation faced. But they also come with a price. Don't put your all eggs in one basket, an old saying goes. Our ancestors' words have been proven by historic events which fluctuated oil prices. This is oil prices since 1946, and every time the price spiked, Qatar made a lot of money. And every drop, their revenue taps have been shut down. 70% of Qatar's revenue and 60% of its GDP is from the oil and gas industries. This situation brings a diversifying challenge for Qatar. And there are not many things economically feasible to do in a desert. So Qatar goes abroad, buys Paris Saint-Germain football club, buys stocks of the Volkswagen Group, Porsche, you name it. Their overseas investments has reached $450 billion, equivalent to the total GDP of the Philippines. They try to attract more tourists by collecting art pieces from all over the world to establish museums in their country, doing their best to attract sports events like these and eye-watering $220 billion cost World Cup. And the country mastered another industry that is almost geography-free: media. Al Jazeera has many bureaus worldwide, second only to the BBC. A powerful media enhances their soft power across the region. Qatar has only 2.6 million people. This is such a small number for a country, but far worse is the fact that only 10% of the total population are Qataris, with foreign workers making up the rest. This 10% of the minority consists of 30 tribes, and Al Thani tribe rules them all. Yes, despite all its wealth, influence, and power, Qatar is a tribal society at its core, but its leaders seek to transform it into a nation. They encourage Qataris to live in Qatar, spend in Qatar, and invest in Qatar as part of an initiative called the Qatarization Project. The main challenge. We mentioned in the opening of the video that Qatar has one major challenge and that all these efforts have been in order to overcome it. It is extremely important for them, and it's not just an economic one, but an existential one. Survival against the other tribes, and it's been attacked and exiled multiple times throughout history. by the rival tribes in the region. The capital city, Doha itself, was destroyed several times in the 19th century. The Saudi tribe tried to conquer and subjugate Qatar no less than 3 times. Qatar survived each time by the skin of its teeth through British intervention. But after the British left the peninsula in 1971, it was business as usual. The rivals began to try to pierce the country part by part. In 1974, Saudi Arabia signed a treaty with United Arab Emirates and seized the 45-kilometer coastal strip that connected Qatar to the United Arab Emirates. Qatar is not included in the treaty even. Later in 1992, a border conflict erupted between Qatar and Saudi Arabia. It took a decade to reach a final agreement. Later in 1995, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates joined forces to overthrow Emir Hamad in Qatar. In 2019, Qatar's effective foreign policy infuriated these same countries who responded with blockade of the nation. Nowadays, Qatar's main chance of survival lies in this place, a US military base in the country's center. Qataris are expecting security guarantees from the US in exchange for hosting their largest military base in the Middle East. Nations are made of stories. Epic battles of survival create the souls of nations. Gallipoli for Turks, Verdun for the French, and Stalingrad for the Russians. Thus the World Cup count for Qatar, only time will tell. If you are a Qatari citizen watching this video, which means you are from the 10% of the people living in your country, and probably rich, and of course loving to give charity. There is a very quick and trusted way of giving charity through our sponsors, Sadaqah Coin. You simply click the link in the description to process the donation. Within a month, it will reach those desperately in need of it, and will be documented on their website section called Proof of Sadaqah. Consider donating to the poor, as you always do.